chatting. All right, guys. So today for the Imperfectly Perfect campaign, I am joined by Richie and Hayley. So say hi to the guys.
Hi, guys.
If you want to explain a little bit about yourself and who you are and what drew you to the campaign.
Sure.
Yeah. My name's Richie. Obviously, I'm an actor and a musician, and I met Glenn through kind of online through a friend who had done the campaign, and I saw what she had done, and then I kind of looked at more at what you've been doing, and it was really interesting. And I thought it was really cool how just on social media, everyone, like you tend to show a certain facet, or it was just opening up other aspects of our lives, you know, on social media that I thought was really cool. And then yeah, we talked a little bit about music, didn't we? And then that kind of segued into coming on board as doing some photos and stuff. So
Nice.
Beautiful.
And yourself?
Yes, and I'm Hayley, and I met you on Instagram.
Yes.
Love
power
it.
of social media.
I know. And I think it was because we were both doing something similar on Instagram, really trying to, mine's just sort of personally showing my own vulnerable side, I guess, but seeing that you were doing that and showcasing that. And then the day we connected, we happened to both be going to the same event the next day, which was a sort of a mental health focused event, so that was a cool connection. And then from there, just love what you're doing and love the whole concept of showing what's really going on. And I'm a clinical psychologist, and so that's what I do for a living. And I've developed programs for high schools trying to teach young people this that I'm doing sort of piloting in Canada, US, and here. So it's definitely, I'm sort of living this, and so I love what you're doing and to see that you're having such a wide impact.
Thank you. And I mean, I know we shot quite a while ago now, didn't we? And we shot quite recently, but have you had quite a response to your images going online from people reaching out personally? Yeah,
I mean, definitely. I guess my whole page is showing that sort of, it's like encapsulated, really fits in with my page. So I definitely got a lot of response from those images. And I hope a lot of people went to see what you were doing because of that, but I think people are responding a lot to that general sense of just being real and being vulnerable. And so I guess people weren't quite as shocked probably on my page because that's what I'm doing all the time. I'm a psychologist.
Well, it's funny you say that because that I did get some great feedback, and people would always respond a lot more kind of favorably than I would imagine. Like when I put up a picture like that, sometimes I'm always scared like that people think, oh, is there something wrong, or what's going on? And sometimes people reach out like that on private messages and like, hope everything's okay. But then most people kind of see, you know, within the context of what it is. And I also was working with a friend of mine called Cairo, and I've been doing some posts on what I've been working with him, and that was really my first kind of foray into that world of like, not just presenting like what I'm doing with my acting or my music or when I'm hanging out with my family, but starting to talk more about like what goes on in here and here. Yeah, so that's been, it was really scary at first to do that. I don't know why, but it just was.
Well, because we don't do it enough.
We just don't.
We just don't. Absolutely. I know when
anything new is scary, I guess.
Exactly. And when I first started posting thoughts and feelings as well, I had similar reactions where people at first are they want to take care of you. And they think there's something wrong, and it's this idea that if we have negative thoughts or if we have difficult emotions, that's bad. And that's why the stigma exists, because we don't allow ourselves the freedom of actually having the full range of emotional expression. And so we just automatically go, that's a negative feeling, get rid of that. And if we can't get rid of that, mask it. You know, and that's why when someone's honestly just saying, I feel awful right now, but oh well. You know, it's that sense of it doesn't need to mean anything.
For a long time in my life, and hearing that even from a friend or a partner or anything was difficult. It made me be like, oh, okay, everything's not like ship shape right now. How can I fix this?
Absolutely.
Fix you, which I know is a big problem, as you know. Psychologist. And so that was something I really had to work on, was like just being able to sit back and listen and like hear it and not like let it trigger me into wanting to change that person, how they're feeling or anything. And likewise doing the same thing for me. And when I kind of I don't know, just learn to be like, oh, that's all right, it's just a bit like this. Then when someone else was a bit like that, it'd be like, oh, cool, I'll just be your friend through that and that.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where it is. And that's why I think these things trigger us so much, which is why I love what you're doing, because when we don't want to see it in ourselves, then it's way too confronting to see it in someone else, right? Because we live our lives just like locking everything down. And so when someone reminds us of it, you know, we shun them, because we're like, well, if I'm cutting out all of those like difficult feelings in myself, then I have to cut you out by extension, because you are showing those difficult feelings.
Yeah, and sometimes I would get scared that those feelings would make me go back to, like, absolutely. I worked so hard at trying not to be depressed. That if someone else was down, I would be like, I'm going to catch it. You know what I mean? Or like, if I start to imagine how you're feeling right now, I'm going to remember why I shouldn't be happy. Exactly. And then I'm going to, which is weird. Because every time you do have a good conversation with someone, you feel better for it.
Totally.
Like, wallowing in it. I mean, sometimes we would call wallowing when it's, we would call it wallowing when it's not really wallowing. You know what I mean?
Yes,
It'd be like, don't wallow, and you're like, I haven't even like got through half the sentence yet. You know what I mean?
And because there's such a difference between feeling and reacting to feeling. And I think that's where we get caught. We think it's the same thing. So, you know, we think, I just don't go anywhere near those feelings, because that means, you know, it's all devastation. But actually, the sensation itself is where we get our information. It's intuition. It's like, I feel sad because I lost something, because I care about it. Like, that's a beautiful thing. That's a part of human existence. But then we react to it and we judge it, and we go into this, well, that must mean something's wrong with me, or something's wrong with them, or that I don't like that person, or we do this whole thing because we don't want to feel it. But actually, if we let ourselves feel it, it doesn't have to be a drama. It's just, oh, okay, interesting information, and then we can move through it.
Yeah, and change your life.
Yeah.
Like, that's a catalyst for change, those feelings. Yeah.
That's it, and that's where our whole culture trying to shut them down is like, we're all just stuck in this like beige. I just want to feel okay, but okay, we shouldn't feel okay. We should be, you know, if we feel devastated, then we can also feel ecstatic. You know, it's like, it's this range.
It's true, actually. Like, sometimes when I feel my most, or when I start being worried about, I'm feeling like warning signs that I could go into this sense of depression, it's like through apathy, and it's through kind of not feeling enough, like, or not, something will be there niggling at me, and I won't go into it fully, so then I close off, and then I close off the good, because it's like an anesthesia. You kind of like numb your whole thing, and the good and the bad. And then I find like putting on a like This Is Us, and having a you know, a cry on that show, all of a sudden, I'm happy again. I'm like,
because you break through, and I love that, because that's true. There's a misconception with depression that it means you feel sad. But it actually is exactly what you described. It means something's there, and we're cutting off from it because it's too scary. And so it's actually like a numbness more than it is a sadness, and that's why it sticks around, because feelings don't stay. Feelings are always coming and going, so if it's a feeling that's sticking around, it's a signal that there's something that you're not actually going into. You're not letting yourself feel it. Because if you felt it, then it would pass, just like every other feeling.
It's like something you gotta remind yourself sometimes. It's like when you're feeling like that, like to put on a piece of music that opens you up, or anything that opens you up. You know, it could be talking, it could be a friend, it could be sitting with yourself, meditating, anything that kind of, like you said, breaks that kind of sense of like anesthesia. Like, we should be making ourselves as sensitive as possible to everything, but learning how to deal with things that we now feel, as opposed to being like, I don't want to learn how to deal with those feelings, so I'm just going to...
And not going to feel,
and not get a feeling.
Exactly, like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, like all, you know, everything around feelings must be negative because it's hard.
Right? Exactly.
So I mean, that goes into kind of my next question is, I love what you're doing because you work towards the younger generation as well, which is what my whole campaign is, because I always say it, that this stigma, we touched upon stigma earlier, it's ingrained in us already. Like, so as a clinical psychologist, working with the younger generation, what would you want to see change in that sort of direction, working? Because my thoughts are, and I've mentioned it in one podcast, the government, they're very good at putting campaigns out, but it doesn't resonate. And I think what's well with your own page and mine is that you're targeting, because you guys are celebrities in your own right, you're public figures. People aspire to be you or your job. So if they can see people like yourself opening up, it's obviously resonated with the younger generation because it's already ingrained. I'm 30, what am I now? I'm 34. And it's already in my head, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think if we can get in there early with the kids, and the government start looking at maybe making videos of these celebrities or public figures, obviously we can't get you guys to all the schools, which would be amazing, but you know what I mean, to play something in an assembly of like a rugby player or somebody big that everybody resonates with, like, so yeah, come back to the question, what would you like to see?
So what I would like to see is definitely role models. I think that's so important. So that's what I do on my YouTube channel and what I do also in my school curriculum. But more than that, I would say is we need to teach young people that it's okay to feel. We need to teach them how to feel, like exactly what we were talking about. You know, all of this shifts is like, there's no such thing as stigma towards someone else if you're letting yourself feel everything that you feel. Because exactly what we were talking about, we're only sort of shunning other people or triggered by other people because they remind us of things that we don't want to feel in ourselves. So what we really need is role models that are showing and then practice. You know, so we basically, every young person needs to be in some sort of a therapeutic space. So that doesn't mean every kid has to go to therapy, but it means we need, and so what I'm aiming to do is change the classroom into a therapeutic space so that we're actually teaching young people how to relate to emotions, how to relate to what they're feeling, how to treat themselves in a different way and what they're feeling in a different way, therefore treating other people in a different way, and actually just tapping into this whole wealth of information that we have accessible to us that we're just not accessing because we're all just numbing out to it through whatever it is, whether it's you know, drugs or alcohol or food or social media or, you know, screens or exercise or work. I mean, there's so many ways that we just try to cut off. So I think
the way you're doing it as well is really good, getting into the classrooms, because I was talking to Dr. Emanuela, the other clinical psychologist, and we was just saying there's not only a stigma against mental health itself, but like yourself being in LA, it's almost a well-known thing to go and see a psychologist, whereas in Australia still, people still have a kind of stigma against that. So the way you're doing it, taking it to a classroom and taking the removal of that away,
that's it. And also good. Even, you know, just translating that, you know, we still have this belief that some people have mental health issues and some people don't, which is not true at all. So it's the sense that it's not even about anxiety and depression or anything like that. It's about human experience. It's about how we all have this wealth of things that are going on and this constant shifting and changing, and that if we can learn to flow with that, and like you were saying, learn not to cut off from that, you know, that's where our power is as humans, right? And so it's that sense of just how can we help young people see that it's okay to be human, you know, and it's not about whether they're struggling or not, it's about, you know, how are they growing through whatever they're experiencing. You know, and I think that takes away the stigma too, because then it's not just, you know, okay, here's these people with anxiety or depression, or, you know, there's a black mark on it. Right? It's the sense of the label, what does that really mean anyway? You know, because then the label is just our way of, well, okay, where's the Band-Aid then? What drug can I take to fix this? What, you know, even therapy could be that sometimes, you know. You know, sometimes parents say, okay, well, go, you know, go see a psychologist and they'll fix it. But it's like, we don't need to be fixed. We just need to learn to relate to what's actually there, because that's where our wisdom is. So I think, you know, what you're doing, the role models, is absolutely powerful, and then it's a matter of how do we then help young people engage with it. That's the big thing, and that's what you're doing, that's what I'm doing too, is how do we get them to talk about this? Because I think, you know, and young people I work with, young people are so wise these days. I know that people are nervous about younger generations because of, you know, lots of things, but what I see is that there's just this wealth of wisdom. And if they start having these conversations, they can figure this out. You know, like they tap into it easier than we can, like you said, because they're not trained up in this this ridiculous model of being cut off.
Well, kids know how to use iPads at 5 and 6, don't they?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a platform for the good of social media,
Yes.
but why are people not tapping into?
Yeah.
There's Facebook, there's Instagram, obviously, but a mental health awareness kind of thing,
absolutely,
where people can actually check in.
Yeah,
with each other kind of thing.
That's it, exactly.
I know there are some apps that I have heard where people can actually check in with each other on those
there's
kind of
lots
things.
of stuff happening on that now.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of how do we engage, and that's what I love about you using celebrities like yourself, Richie, in the sense of people that have social power. In our world, that's the way it is, right? People that are being watched, they have social power. So if we can sort of start voicing and start role modeling this authenticity and using, like you said, using these platforms, because it is just a platform. And the fact that right now it's can cause so much harm is really only the way we're using it. The fact that we're only portraying this version of ourselves that we think we want people to see. So if we can do exactly what you're doing, blow it wide open and just say, like you're saying, share, this is what's going on in my mind, then all of a sudden, at first the reaction is, oh, what's wrong? But then it starts to become normal. And that's what changes it, where young people go, oh, okay, it's okay to have a day where I hate my life.
And Richie, did you notice the difference when you first went from Australia to LA in the way that people talk about mental health? Like your friends, did they share more there than they do here? Because I know it's not a blokey thing like in England, in Australia. Many guys who've been on the campaign have said, oh, you'll be right, it's not a man thing to talk. Did you notice a big difference or a shift?
Well, because I just, I have small circles here and small circles there, it's hard to know if the shift was generally because, Australia and LA, or if it's just who I hang out with.
Of course.
And hanging out with more, I guess, probably actors and musicians, perhaps in LA, meant that I was speaking to people who might be slightly more, comfortable talking about, maybe their feelings. That's a generalization though, but it's hard. Man. I know. Look, all I can say is when at school and growing up there in Australia, my schoolmates and I, we've just started kind of being a lot more open. We would do it, but we'd do it in a really, like, in jokes or underhanded payouts and stuff. And obviously we got each other's backs, real hard, but it's the language we use is really different than friends I would make now here or in LA. And I think you find that, like, your school friends, your friends, for very different reasons almost than you make friends now in many ways. It's kind of like your family as well. Like in school, you're not kind of consciously choosing your friends in a way, but you're choosing them in so many different factors go into choosing school friends. And then the older you get and the kind of more, I guess, like, I don't know, specific you get about your choices in everything in life, friends become that too, in terms of, who's like got similar interests. And like me and my school friends, like our interests aren't that similar. Like all our jobs are very different, but we have a common thread. Our common thread tends to be our energy and our energy level and our kind of the way we approach life. So in saying that, it's almost therapeutic just hanging out with them because it's such, the bond was started at such a kind of from a raw place. But I think speaking about what you're talking about, like with raising our children's EQ in a way, like at school, like I didn't know what really depression or anxiety was, and when I felt it, I didn't even want to speak to my parents. I tried to bring it up with I think one or two friends at school, and they looked at me like I was nuts. I was like, I don't feel like anything's real. I was sitting there and I was saying like, man, I feel detached. And maybe they hadn't gone through a period like that, and they were kind of like, what's that mean? Like it's hard to understand another like frame of mind if you've never been through something similar, or if the person explaining it doesn't explain it very well. Which possibly could have been the case. But I think like we have a duty, like especially around our age, like when we're having children, is to lead by example. Like social media and the government can do stuff, but like we have a duty like to read about it, to see therapists if we can, if we have the means, and to, because we can change. Like you're right, we didn't grow up talking about it a lot, but I think I'm seeing a lot in our generation changing. So therefore, when we have children and the way we talk to our partners and the way we listen to our partner and the way we communicate to our partner, like the way we speak to them and the way we share, is going to be literally copied by these kids up to they go.
So true.
Like those first 5 years of their life are so important in like just hearing like tones of voice and seeing body language between their parents or just the people they're around. Like, and I feel like that would make a massive difference.
Yeah.
And it would be amazing in a few years if we were sat here on the same sofa and it wasn't even a question, talking about mental health.
Yeah.
If you put two younger people on here,
and
they'd be like, "What are you talking about?"
It's
like because of exactly what you say. It's gone and it's ingrained into them.
And I think you're absolutely right. It is so much role modeling, and we're just sponges when we're young. So we're just picking up on everything around us. So if you see, and I think you're absolutely right. Parents, it's the first place, right? If we can learn, if we have children, if we can learn to relate to our own stress, our own worries, our own struggles in a way that's healthy, that's vulnerable, that's showing this, that's just natural training. That's ideal, right? Then you don't need an intervention because everyone's just getting that seeped into their culture, into their surroundings.
And I think if it brings in like, did you see the post I put up today? Some of the support messages.
Oh yeah.
So I posted and it was such a powerful one. And Lucy, our amazing makeup artist who helps out, you met her. She posted the video with cutting. She talks about self-harming back in the day, and this woman shared a story. She messaged me and she basically said, if it wasn't for your campaign, her daughter sat next to her on the sofa flicking through the images.
Wow.
And they was talking, like I carried a conversation on with her, and she'd stopped at that picture and then explained to her mum that she'd been doing it herself. And from that, like the worst thing is you would never want to know that your child is self-harming and you don't know about it. Like I'd hate that with kids myself. But the campaign actually provoked her a conversation. So if that actually moved,
so powerful.
like, do you know what I mean? But if we educate ourselves, like we're talking about, like, and it's not even there. It's not even a question.
Then it's normal because that is exactly right. Kids are terrified to tell their parents about what's happening, of course, because we live in a world where no one's talking about it. So we, when we're young, we automatically assume that no one else has felt like this, and that we're totally alone in it. And so that's where it's showing and seeing that actually it's really normal, and there's a way through it. That it doesn't have to stay that way. It's just
right. I think if anything makes depression or any mental issue kind of harder, it's being alone. Like being alone. Like you shouldn't have to go through anything alone. You should. I think this is kind of what I said in my video, was like sharing both sides of life. And I've definitely found, at least in my relationships, when I started opening up about both sides and being more vulnerable, the relationship was a lot more fulfilling for both of us. There was more trust was built. Intimacy was way better.
I just think kids are amazing. Teenagers are amazing. And I've specifically found teenagers that have gone through struggles with mental health because that's who I'm showcasing on the video. Similar to what you're doing, I'm creating a whole program around it where they're role modeling to their peers. And I feel like the teenagers that I talk to are so switched on. The ones, and this is what's so ironic, is I feel like it's the people that have been through something hard that are the wisest.
So what age group?
So the ages I'm looking at right now for this video is 16 to 18.
Okay.
So, but the absolute, the empowerment and the strength and the courage that I'm seeing in these young people when they've gone through things, and as a result of going through these things, they're talking to 16, 17, 18-year-olds that know exactly what they want out of life and that don't care what anyone thinks of them, and that these are things that I'm barely figuring out now. Like there's no way I would have known that when I was a teenager, and it's because they've been through it and been supported and figured out how to be vulnerable, how to lean into it, how to feel it, and how to process it. So I have so much hope for the future, actually. It's amazing. I love what I do for that reason, because when you look at the media, it's easy to be really depressed about what we see in terms of everything being so superficial and everyone being so obsessed with their image and all this kind of stuff. But when I talk to these kids, I'm like, they are the leaders.
I think the media is a true representation, really, of what's going on in the whole world.
No, not at all.
Is it?
Yeah.
Most of it's clickbait in many ways.
Exactly. And I actually feel that it's the people that have been through, you want to call it mental health struggles, that are actually the ones that are going to lead us, because it's like that's what opens us up. That's what helps us tap into all these things that are there for all of us. But if we haven't gone through something confronting, we just don't go there. We don't look.
Which is why it's such a shame that when people are still applying for job positions, one of the questions is, have you had a medical history of mental health or something?
Wow.
Which it's so bad, and I think it needs to be scrapped.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because for what you're saying, from your perspective as a clinical psychologist, that these guys can be the leaders because of what they've been through and what they've learned.
Absolutely.
For a job to merely judge them because they've gone through, it doesn't state what kind of mental health illness, like anxiety, PT. It could be anything. It could be something minor.
And really, who hasn't? If you say no to that, you're probably well.
You say no to a load of things, right?
How many big corporations? Even I was speaking to someone from New South Wales Police Force, and they're doing a whole push on mental health within the police force, and it's same within doctors and same within nurses.
What do you mean they're doing a
push to understand?
Just like a push to what? Like mental health programs to protect their guys, because back in the day, again, it was kind of you'll be fine.
Definitely.
These days, it's obviously more open. There's been more statistics about the amount of nurses and doctors that have committed suicide because of what they're dealing with.
I used to work in a police department, and that's exactly right. The stuff that they see is horrific.
So if they can do this, then it's not pushing anything towards the government, but there just needs to be a change or an impact to take that from a job description.
Absolutely. Well, what I would do if I was hiring someone, if I was working for an organization and I was hiring someone, I would ask that question, but I would ask, what is the hardest thing you've been through and how did you grow through it? I feel like that is a beautiful question, because you could learn so much about someone, how they overcome things, how that opens it up. Whereas just to say, how have you struggled, how have you not, that just doesn't make any sense. Because even if you, wherever you put yourself on that line, it doesn't give you any valuable information. Is that on like all job applications, or is that on?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I haven't applied for many. Do you know what I mean? But when you've seen, when you've seen job applications, that is predominantly a big question that is asked. Which
and seen as then a vulnerability is the assumption. If you
it's a liability.
Almost
more than a vulnerability.
But I mean, vulnerability for the company. Liability for the company. Absolutely.
Well, that's it. They're going, do you have the mental strength to do? You'd see it in the army, you'd see it in the police force, so I'm guessing if you've seen a psychologist, they'll be like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can't really do.
And that's the other thing that is so infuriating, is this idea of mental strength, that if we're strong, I mean, the idea of strength to us is someone who literally has no emotions, right? Whereas strength is the ability to actually be honest about what we're feeling, right? So the strong person would say, yes, this is what I've struggled with. Whereas it's the person with less strength that would say, no, everything's fine.
So how is the stigma supposed to be broken if we're pushing forward, but we're taking 10 steps back by things like this?
I don't know if we are taking 10 steps back. I think we're going, I think we're like maybe one step back to every I shouldn't get into that. Stats might mean that. It can definitely feel like we're taking a lot of steps backwards. I feel you. But I just think with social media, I think generally it's people you can look at it two ways. You can look at like we're only showing certain aspects of our life, but at the same time, what I see on social media is a lot of people who are more willing to say how they feel, because it's less confronting typing it on a screen than looking someone in the eye. And I don't know, like I've learned a lot more about people in my circle, I think, through social media than I have, because people put on a social front when you're around them.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to say, oh, like it's all better in the real world when we look at each other, but I find things are often a lot more fake in the real world than they are on social media, because I see people's political opinions, religious, what they think, on a whole wide, range of subjects. And when we're in person, none of that would ever come up, because you just kind of, I don't know, there's probably more of a, which is good and bad, because people are probably less argumentative in person because they want to get along, and there's more stuff in common at that point with you and that person, like where you are, what you're doing, the environment. Yeah. So you're probably more kind of eager as a human to make things work. Whereas it's kind of like if you're having an argument with someone, sending them a letter, then they're replying with a letter, then you're replying. Seems, unless you can communicate really well, like that's often like, let's just write each other's letters because we can't let each other finish our sentences and all this. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
We're still learning how to communicate in person. Well, I know I am in person properly. And I think sometimes social media is a good, safe way for people to be able to say how they're feeling. Saying that, there's always the other side of the coin, where people, bullying on social media, and you probably have to have a pretty thick skin. But you can block people as well, and all that, and at the end of the day, you don't have to look at it.
Yeah.
So that's good to know that you've got power there. But I mean, I think with any celebrities or people with a big social media status, they probably get just as many people, not liking what they do and liking what they do, like dislikes, especially I say with music and stuff, and and I think if you want to do something really well, you've got to expect that not everyone's going to be into it.
Yeah.
And it's got to be the same with how you feel and how you communicate as well. Like, you've just got to understand that people have different opinions, and that's okay. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and that's what, it takes so much courage to stand out and do something, because exactly that. Yeah. And I would say, to your point, in the sense of, as well, I would agree with Richie that I feel like we are moving forward, even though we're also moving backwards. Like, I feel like it's this really intense time, but I feel like when things get so extreme, there's always the other side rising. So it's like, who was it? Was it Margaret Mead that said, "Never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." And I really believe that, like, we are changing it. Like, I think it's just people deciding to go, it's not up to anyone else, it's up to me. I'm going to do everything I possibly can. And I think when we decide that as one human, as a group of humans, absolutely. I mean, look how much you've done. Everyone wants to be a part of it, and because you're doing something great. And the same thing, when you get this momentum where you're just like, I'm doing this, I'm like, why can't I change the world? Why not? Other people have changed the world for, you know what I mean?
I think what I meant by that was, yes, we're moving forward, people, in a sense of the general population, but stemming from that job question, kind of that's where we're going back. Like, because if part of the government's moving forward, if the police are moving forward, if nurses, doctors are moving forward, if we as a generation are moving forward, that's where we're keeping back. Just remove that, and then we're all moving forward together. Do you know what I mean? So we're on the same page.
Yeah, I think the systems always kind of come behind. I feel like it's like innovation happens, we start thinking differently, and then it takes a while.
Some things are harder, like kept in stone.
And sometimes literally it's like just change. It's like, maybe everybody agrees that it shouldn't be there, but like nobody has the time to like
who's the person who changes
that, like, do the computer and like writes the new form, or maybe they don't have, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's just simple as that, and it's like, I feel like things can be weeded out. But I think you're absolutely right, and if that's something that you're specifically passionate about, then do it. Speak out.
Make
these changes. That's one.
Do it, right? Why not? Like, you can. You absolutely can. I think that's what's so valuable. We all have something that lights us up differently, right? So you find the thing where you're like, that's my thing. I'm doing it. And then why not? People can start campaigns about anything, and really make change. And that's another benefit of social media, is now we have a voice. Anyone has a voice. You don't need any credentials to be able to speak out.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like you just find what you're passionate about and what you care about, and you can change it.
I think that's so true. I think with the what we're talking about in terms of the jobs and having this, you know, a liability for the company, I think there's a tendency to be like certain about things.
Yeah.
I just wanted to like say it because it kind of went through one ear and nearly went out the other. Like, well, not my ear, it nearly came out. And then and I feel like the whole, if you've seen a psychologist, then something must be wrong.
Yeah.
As it's, we got to stop worrying about being unsure about things and being like, I don't know, and that's a bad thing. Like if someone goes, oh, I'm not sure about my mental state, or I'm not sure if I can do this job, instead of going, well, I'm sorry, we need someone who's sure.
Yeah.
So
like as soon as you're sure about something, you're not even looking at another option.
Yes.
And like, yeah, and I just feel like the more I've like been okay with myself being unsure about like, is this the best way to do this, or did I act the best way there, or did I, you know, the more answers I found, and I think like it's a softer approach, and it's easier for other people to come aboard with you, and like we shouldn't look at like this confidence and this sure, like as growing up through school, that's what was like drummed into us, like make your bold decisions and be sure and take action, and sure there's a time for that, but I would, and this might, I don't know if this pertains more to men, maybe like where I know I always felt like to be a real man, I had to always be confident and sure about everything. Like from the most mundane things to like how to run a relationship. Do you know what I mean? And then there was after I kind of just got rid of that somehow and eradicated that out of my mind, that I started finding so much more wisdom from everyone else, and then being able to being open to it, and then being able to utilize it, and then
I would say that is, I would definitely empathize in terms of men being in this culture. There's definitely pressure on that, but I would say even more so than that, it's our whole culture values the sort of that form of masculinity. So even for women, like I've even found that in my life, in the sense that we don't value our feminine qualities, which is that intuition, that softness, that listening to ourselves, all of that stuff, which would be on that form, you know, when they're asking
100%.
100%. Like, so are you open to uncertainty? Are you open to change? Yes, well, get out of here.
Yes.
And so that's so symptomatic of the fact that exactly that we're looking for this one way of being, which we've found. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that masculine quality. That's a very powerful quality, but we're so oversaturated with it in our culture that we need the other side. Yeah. We need that. So I totally agree with you in that sense of we need to start looking in a different place. We need to start flipping the whole thing on its head and going, you know, whoever's willing to go there, that's the kind of strength we need now. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
The strengthening the flexible piece of grass.
Yes, yes, that's it. And that, you know, you're right in terms of that uncertainty. Like, how terrifying is that? You go into that, I don't know, you know, but that is where the power is. You know, as soon as, I know for me too, as soon as I think I know something, that's dangerous.
It feels good, but it's dangerous.
It is, because then I know, but then I know I have a blind spot.
Yeah.
Because, you know, how can you really know anything? You know, because everything's always changing. Yeah. We had a long debate about that.
That was a good one.
Can you ever know anything?
So true. Yeah.
Well, we'll wrap it up, guys, because we've had a good conversation. I want to thank you both for coming on the campaign, guys. And anything left to say from you guys that you want to see in terms of change? I think we've said it all.
We said everything that's good ever been said. And I know it.
Exactly. For certain. There's nothing else.
You're sure.
I'm sure.
All right, guys. Well, until next time.
Yes.
Thank you.